Hello, my dear. You know what? Your aura has people in a frenzy, and the reason it feels dangerous is because it is. Not dangerous in the way you were taught to fear, but dangerous in the way fire is dangerous to rot, in the way pressure is dangerous to weak foundations. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about you thinking you're special. This is about the uncomfortable truth that your presence does something to people. Before you even open your mouth, you walk into rooms and the temperature shifts. Conversations adjust. Energy reorganizes itself around you. And most people never learned how to be honest about what they feel when they sense someone like you. So instead they project, they twitch, they compete, they panic quietly, and some of them become reckless. You were never too much. That was just the easiest excuse people could use when they didn't want to admit they felt exposed around you. Because that's what your aura does. It exposes. It doesn't attack. It doesn't chase. It doesn't announce itself. It simply reveals. And insecure people do not survive being revealed. They survive by hiding, by blending, by staying unexamined. So when you enter their proximity, it's not admiration they feel first. It's threat. Not because you're trying to take something from them, but because your existence reminds them of everything they've avoided becoming. This is why the reactions are never clean. If it were simple dislike, it would be obvious. If it were jealousy alone, it would be predictable. But what you trigger is more complex. People oscillate around you. One day they praise you. The next day they undermine you. One moment they copy you. The next moment they dismiss you. They smile too hard. They go quiet at the wrong times. Their eyes don't match their words. And you can feel it, even if you can't always explain it. That internal alarm you've learned to second guess. It wasn't paranoia, it was pattern recognition. Your aura forces people to confront themselves without consent. That's why it feels intense. That's why it feels charged. That's why people who are comfortable being mediocre suddenly become hostile when you're around. You don't have to outperform them. You don't have to challenge them. You don't even have to succeed loudly. Your presence alone reminds them that they settled. And some people would rather destroy the mirror than change what it reflects. This is especially dangerous when those people are close to you. Family, friends, partners. The ones who believe proximity entitles them to comfort. They tell themselves they know you. They tell themselves you're equal. They tell themselves you're not that different. But then they watch how others respond to you. They notice how rooms orbit you. They see how opportunities lean toward you without you forcing them. And slowly, something curdles. They won't say it out loud, but they start needing you to stay small so they can stay sane. That's when the passive aggression begins. The subtle dismissals, the delayed support, the strange absence during your wins, the enthusiasm when you're struggling. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to who lights up when things go wrong for you. Pay attention to who goes quiet when things go right. That contrast is not accidental. It's diagnostic. People in a frenzy don't always look angry. Sometimes they look obsessed. They watch you closely. They study your timing. They memorize your habits. They ask questions that feel harmless, but aren't. They collect information under the disguise of concern. And if you've ever felt like someone knew too much about you without truly knowing you, that's why. Your aura pulled them in, but their intention wasn't connection. It was comparison. Here's the part most people don't like admitting. Intimidation doesn't require superiority. It requires authenticity. People who live fragmented lives cannot tolerate someone who moves as one piece. You don't need to be richer. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aligned. And alignment is unbearable to people who survive by performing versions of themselves they don't respect. That's why you've tried to dim yourself before. Not because you lacked confidence, but because you felt the friction. You noticed that every time you showed up fully, something went wrong. Someone lashed out. Someone withdrew. Someone tried to compete where there was no competition. So you learned to edit yourself, to soften your voice, to shrink your presence, to over-explain so others wouldn't feel threatened. But all that did was exhaust you and embolden them, because insecure people don't relax when you get smaller. They just get closer. This is where the danger comes in. When people feel intimidated but powerless, they don't retreat. They scheme, they whisper, they distort narratives, they look for allies, they test boundaries quietly before crossing them loudly. And because you don't operate from malice, you often don't see it coming. You assume good intentions. You assume misunderstandings. You assume maturity. Meanwhile, they're rehearsing scenarios where you are the villain and they are justified. That's why some of you have experienced sudden character attacks. Rumors that feel exaggerated. Accusations that don't match your behavior. Situations where you're confused how things escalated so fast. That escalation didn't start when you noticed it. It started when someone decided your light made them uncomfortable, and instead of confronting themselves, they chose to confront you. And the most unsettling part is this: some people don't just want you to fail. They want you erased, not physically in the obvious sense, but socially, emotionally, reputationally. They want your credibility questioned, your confidence shaken, your support system fractured, because as long as you exist as yourself, you are proof that they could have lived differently. And that proof burns. You may have noticed that even when you struggle, it doesn't satisfy them fully. They don't relax when you're down. They study whether you'll recover. They watch to see if your spark goes out completely. Temporary setbacks don't comfort them, because your resilience reminds them that you're still a factor. That's why the resentment feels endless. That's why it feels disproportionate. They aren't reacting to your circumstances. They're reacting to your potential. This is also why separation keeps happening in your life. People fall away. Connections dissolve. Paths diverge without dramatic endings. At first, it felt like loss, like rejection, like punishment. But it wasn't. It was containment. Because not everyone who is drawn to your aura is meant to stay close to it. Some are attracted because they want warmth. Others are attracted because they want control. And the second group becomes volatile when they realize they can't possess what you carry. You don't intimidate people because you're cruel. You intimidate them because you're ungovernable. You don't need permission to exist as you are. You don't collapse without validation. You don't disappear when unsupported. That independence terrifies people who rely on hierarchy and approval to feel real. They need someone above them or beneath them. You exist beside yourself, and that breaks their internal order. So if you've been feeling watched, misunderstood, targeted, or subtly opposed, understand this: it's not random. It's not imagination. It's the response of unexamined people encountering someone who refuses to fracture themselves to belong. Your aura doesn't attack. It doesn't pursue. It doesn't dominate. It simply refuses to apologize. And for certain personalities, that is intolerable. The truth is, you are entering a phase where this intensity will increase, not decrease. Not because you're becoming aggressive, but because you're becoming clearer, and clarity sharpens everything around it. Those who benefit from confusion will resist you harder. Those who relied on you being unsure will grow desperate, and those who were already unstable around you may start revealing themselves in ways that can no longer be ignored. This is where awareness becomes essential. Not fear, awareness. Because intimidation reaches its most dangerous point when you underestimate its effects. When you assume others process you the way you process them. When you believe everyone wants growth, honesty, and mutual respect. They don't. Some people want dominance. Some want validation. Some want someone to blame for their own stagnation. And when they can't control you, they try to destabilize you. But here's what they don't understand yet. Your aura isn't escalating by accident. It's responding to something internal that has already shifted. You are no longer negotiating your presence. You are no longer asking to be understood. You are no longer shrinking preemptively. And that internal decision sends a signal that is already being felt by those who hoped you'd stay manageable. That signal is subtle, almost imperceptible at first. It is the way you carry yourself without waiting for permission. It is the way your energy fills a room without being loud. It is the way your calmness disrupts chaos around you. Those who have relied on predictability, those who have thrived when control was easy, they feel it immediately. It rattles their internal hierarchy. It throws off their calculations. It forces them to reassess everything they believed about power, influence, and status. And this is the moment where many begin to overreact without even realizing why. They sense your shift before they can articulate it. They feel a new authority emerging from you that cannot be measured by titles, money, or appearances. It is raw, undeniable, and threatening to anyone who depends on maintaining a false equilibrium. And this threat is not something you created externally. It is the natural projection of your own alignment, the consequence of an internal evolution they cannot match. What is critical to understand here is that energy, especially the kind you carry, operates like a mirror and a magnet simultaneously. It reflects the hidden insecurities of those around you, while attracting awareness from those who are ready to witness the authentic. People in proximity to your energy cannot hide themselves anymore. Their responses become involuntary, automatic, and revealing. This is why you have seen sudden shifts in relationships. Why people who once smiled at your victories now look away. Why conversations become strained. Why subtle resistance replaces encouragement. These are not random occurrences. These are patterns, signals of a deeper psychological response. People feel exposed around you. They feel measured against an invisible scale you didn't ask to hold, but they are forced to. Their envy, their insecurity, their unacknowledged fears, they all surface in your presence. And while it may appear external, it is a direct reaction to the clarity and authority of your internal state. The danger in this scenario lies not with you, but with their inability to process this disruption. Humans have a threshold for threat, and emotional threat is the most destabilizing. When someone senses that another person is unshakable, luminous, unapologetically themselves, it bypasses rationality. People do not respond with logic to presence. They respond with instinct. And instinct in insecure individuals often manifests as hostility, subtle sabotage, or attempts to diminish. They will comment, question, undermine, compare, and create narratives that cast you as the anomaly that must be neutralized. and these attempts are rarely conscious. Most of the time, the aggression is unconscious, automatic, a defense mechanism of the mind trying to restore equilibrium it perceives as violated. That is why your aura feels dangerous to them, because it is. Dangerous not in intention, but in consequence. Dangerous in the way it unmasks, destabilizes, and challenges the fragile constructions others depend upon to feel secure. Consider for a moment how power dynamics work when the person who is feared or admired does not seek domination. Your power, the way you carry yourself, is not about control. It is about consistency, presence, and authenticity. It is inherently magnetic and disruptive. The people who feel most threatened are not those who are weak. They are those who have invested in a fragile appearance of strength. They are practiced at dominance over others who comply, who defer, who adjust. And then you arrive. And suddenly, the entire framework they relied upon begins to wobble. This is when panic emerges, and it is subtle but palpable. They start calculating. They begin projecting. They whisper. They observe patterns obsessively. They measure your responses, trying to find a weakness, a point of entry, a way to destabilize. And what they often fail to recognize is that the very act of monitoring you reinforces your aura further. The more attention they pay, the more they are drawn into the orbit of your alignment. Their attempts to neutralize you, to contain you, only amplify the visibility of your presence. You have likely noticed over time that the most seemingly innocuous relationships carry the highest potential for disruption. Those who are close, those who have access to intimate knowledge of your life, are the ones who become most reactive. This is not coincidental. Proximity allows the aura to be studied, experienced, and compared. And when people are insecure, when their internal assessment reveals a gap between their self-image and your manifestation, the intensity of their reaction increases. It is subtle at first, a dropped tone, an awkward pause, a hesitation in response. Then it escalates to micro-sabotage, a comment meant to belittle, a story framed to diminish, a withdrawal of support at critical moments. And it culminates in actions that are aggressive, not physically, but strategically. Lies, distortions, manipulations. Every interaction becomes a test, every reaction a measure of how far they can push without being exposed themselves. This is the psychology of intimidation and envy. It is not personal, though it feels that way. It is instinctual. The critical distinction is that their reaction is to you, not from you. You do not create their insecurity. You do not instigate their envy. You exist authentically, and that existence triggers responses in those who are unprepared for unfiltered truth. And the more you resist conforming, the stronger these responses become. That is the paradox. The less you negotiate your presence, the less you shrink, the more potent the reactions around you. And because most people are accustomed to influencing others through superficiality, flattery, or control, encountering someone immune to such tactics creates anxiety, obsession, and a form of uncontrolled fear. It is why their eyes shift. It is why their words falter. It is why they engage in overcompensation, attempting to restore a hierarchy that no longer holds. You are not responsible for these behaviors, but you are responsible for recognizing them, navigating them, and maintaining your alignment. Your aura also functions as a filter, whether you intend it to or not. It attracts individuals who resonate with authenticity and repels those who cannot accommodate it. The challenge arises when those repelled are those whose opinions, proximity, or influence matter to you. This is when lessons about separation, boundary setting, and strategic distancing become necessary. You do not cut people off to punish. You cut people off to protect your trajectory, to preserve the integrity of your energy, to maintain clarity. And those who cannot bear the truth of your presence will always attempt to draw you into conflict. They will test patience, ethics, and restraint. And part of mastery is understanding which battles require engagement and which require observation and measured withdrawal. Another layer to consider is the psychological projection they will impose. People who are intimidated often attempt to map their fears onto you. They will accuse you of arrogance, of cruelty, of manipulation, even when your intent is neutrality or kindness. They do this to externalize their discomfort, to create a narrative where they retain a sense of control. And because these projections are emotionally charged, they can affect your social perception if you are not vigilant. That is why awareness is not optional. Awareness is protection. It allows you to witness the reactions, decode the motives, and respond strategically rather than emotionally. It allows your aura to remain a source of empowerment rather than a point of vulnerability. This level of intensity around you is rarely accidental. It is cumulative. Each time you refused to shrink, each time you held your ground, each time you aligned with your own truth rather than others' expectations, the field of energy around you strengthened. And those who were never able to tolerate unfiltered authenticity are now in positions of observation, evaluation, and reaction. They feel threatened not by what you say or do, but by the mere fact that you continue to exist fully. And because they cannot neutralize your internal alignment, they attempt external destabilization. This is why patterns of passive aggression, gossip, subtle undermining, and manipulation intensify precisely as your clarity and consistency expand. You are a catalyst. They are reactionary. The dynamic is inevitable, but your mastery of it is not. It is essential to understand that power, in this context, is subtle but absolute. Your aura operates on a level that does not require verbal assertion. Influence is established before conversation begins. Authority is recognized before a single request is made. And for those who are sensitive to this, the instinctive response is to attempt to diminish what they cannot understand. They may not articulate it. They may not act overtly at first. But the pattern emerges consistently over time. You will see attempts to redirect conversations, to frame situations unfairly, to undermine credibility, to manipulate perception. And these behaviors are all reactions to your internal shift. They are not indictments of your actions. They are proofs of your presence. Another critical observation is how these dynamics affect group environments. People who sense your intensity often attempt to assemble allies, consciously or unconsciously, to stabilize their own perception of dominance. They observe who is impressionable, who seeks approval, who is susceptible to manipulation, and they attempt to integrate these individuals into their sphere. Your presence disrupts this social architecture. It forces recalibration, it forces honesty, and it forces choice. Those unwilling to be honest may attempt containment through social maneuvering. And this is why distance becomes a necessary tool. Maintaining alignment in proximity to reactive individuals requires boundaries, clear perception, and strategic discretion. This is not withdrawal from power. It is consolidation of energy. Consider the long-term implications. Your consistency, your refusal to shrink, your unapologetic existence, all of these send ripples outward, that are invisible to those who are untrained in perception. Relationships adjust, networks realign, opportunities gravitate. People who once appeared supportive may subtly attempt to divert or disrupt your momentum. Simultaneously, individuals who resonate with your energy, who are ready for alignment, begin to emerge. They recognize authority without confrontation, collaboration without coercion, and resonance without competition. Your aura functions as both a filter and a magnet, simultaneously repelling those unprepared and attracting those in harmony. Understanding this dynamic is crucial to navigating the external chaos while maintaining internal clarity. And here lies the paradox. The very behaviors of those in a frenzy confirm your potency. The attempts at containment, the jealousy, the micro-sabotages, they are markers of influence, proof of the authenticity and intensity you carry. While it may feel destabilizing, it is evidence of effect. Those who can tolerate your presence without reaction are those who resonate with your frequency. Those who cannot tolerate it are inadvertently highlighting the boundaries of your impact. Recognizing this allows you to move with precision, to invest energy wisely, and to escalate presence intentionally rather than reactively. Every attempt to diminish you reinforces the necessity of alignment, clarity, and purpose. Your task is not to correct others' perceptions. That is a fruitless endeavor. Their interpretations are rooted in internal deficiency, not in your misalignment. The moment you take responsibility for others' reactions, you dilute your own authority. You dim your light to appease shadows, and shadows cannot be appeased. You are witnessing the psychology of projection in real time. Recognize it, categorize it, protect yourself from it, and then continue with the expansion that initially triggered the response. The fire that burns within you cannot be extinguished by external unease. It is nourished by authenticity, sharpened by challenge, and validated by resilience. Understanding this internal-external feedback loop allows for mastery, rather than becoming entangled in attempts at appeasement or retaliation. The ultimate evolution of this phase is realization. Realization that intimidation is not weakness, aggression is not your responsibility, and chaos is not necessarily opposition. You are learning that presence itself is sufficient, that influence does not require coercion, that clarity of self is unassailable when maintained. Those in a frenzy will act, will react, will escalate, but your energy is not subject to escalation. You are becoming unmovable. And in recognizing this, you also recognize that relationships, proximity, and social structures are tools, not determinants. They are the environment in which power and presence manifest, not the source of them. This awareness allows you to anticipate patterns without being reactive. You begin to see the early signs of agitation, the micro shifts that indicate underlying instability, the subtle attempts to redirect attention or undermine credibility. You no longer enter these dynamics blindly. You observe, measure, and calibrate. This strategic positioning transforms what might have been chaos into controlled influence. And those who previously sought to destabilize you now serve as markers, as indicators, as instruments by which you can refine discernment, assess alignment, and execute precision in engagement. You are learning to transform perceived threats into informational leverage. At the same time, your aura continues to grow in potency. Presence compounds presence. Clarity compounds clarity. Every action taken in alignment, every refusal to dim, every act of deliberate authenticity amplifies the magnetic and disruptive force of your energy. And this compounding effect is not linear. It accelerates exponentially. Those in proximity who cannot tolerate it react with intensity disproportionate to the actual threat posed. They escalate narratives, exaggerate conflicts, and generate internal chaos in an attempt to recalibrate a world they no longer understand. This is why consistency becomes the ultimate defense. The moment you fluctuate, those observing exploit uncertainty. The moment you waver, they insert themselves into narrative gaps. Stability in presence neutralizes opportunism. Equally important is the recognition of patience as a weapon. Your aura demands time to reveal full effects. Immediate reactions are surface level. Realignment, surrender, and recognition take longer. Those attempting to destabilize will act prematurely, often self-sabotaging. Your energy persists. It is sustained. It is continuous. And the combination of presence, patience, and strategic awareness creates a force that is not combated through aggression, but through equilibrium. You are not participating in their frenzy. You are maintaining your course while allowing the repercussions of your alignment to unfold. And in doing so, you create an environment where truth is visible, influence is undeniable, and boundaries are enforced without confrontation. What happens next is not chaos. It only appears that way to those who do not understand how power matures. You are entering a phase where your presence no longer needs explanation, defense, or translation. People either adjust or they fracture. And the most revealing part is that you don't have to announce anything for this to occur. Your consistency does the work. Your refusal to react does the work. Your ability to remain steady while others scramble exposes the imbalance more clearly than confrontation ever could. This is where intimidation completes its transformation. It stops being emotional and becomes structural. It stops being reactive and becomes permanent. Those who once tried to test you will begin to withdraw, not because they suddenly respect you, but because proximity becomes unbearable. Your calm becomes louder than their tactics. Your restraint becomes heavier than their pressure. They cannot provoke what no longer needs validation. They cannot compete with what refuses comparison. And this is the moment where many realize too late that they miscalculated you. They thought intensity meant volatility. They assumed awareness would make you defensive. They believed patience meant weakness. And now, they are standing in the consequences of those assumptions. You will notice a shift in how people approach you. Conversations shorten. Justifications increase. People explain themselves without being asked. They hesitate before speaking. They test the temperature of the room before committing to a stance. This is not because you became harsh. It is because you became grounded. Grounded people are difficult to manipulate. They don't rush. They don't overshare. They don't chase closure. And for those who rely on emotional leverage, this creates discomfort they cannot navigate. This is also where authority becomes unmistakable. Not the loud kind, not the imposed kind. The kind that exists because it cannot be ignored. The kind that alters behavior without instruction. People start checking themselves around you. They think twice. They edit their tone. They adjust their posture. And the most revealing part is that this happens even when you say very little. Presence does not need permission when it is anchored in certainty. The danger others sensed was never about what you would do to them. It was about what they would be forced to see within themselves. And now that the reflection is stable, now that you are no longer negotiating your existence, the reflection sharpens. Some will retreat quietly. Some will attempt one last disruption. Some will pretend nothing ever happened, but all of them will register the same truth. You are not available for control. This is where discernment replaces doubt. You no longer question whether reactions are imagined. You no longer internalize discomfort that does not belong to you. You observe patterns without personalizing them. You understand that hostility is often admiration twisted by insecurity. That dismissal is often fear pretending to be indifference, and that obsession is often inferiority wearing curiosity as a disguise. This clarity is irreversible. Your relationships will continue to reorganize themselves. Some connections will dissolve without conflict. Some will distance themselves naturally, and a smaller, more aligned circle will begin to form. Not louder, not flashier, more precise. These are the individuals who are not threatened by presence because they are cultivating their own. They do not compete with authenticity, they recognize it. They do not resent clarity, they respect it. And this alignment will feel calm rather than intoxicating, stable rather than dramatic. That calm is the marker of genuine resonance. At the same time, those who once thrived on your accessibility will feel the absence sharply. Not because you disappeared, but because you are no longer open to extraction. They will feel the loss of influence, the loss of leverage, the loss of relevance, and this can provoke attempts to reinsert themselves. Sudden kindness, nostalgia, manufactured concern, but you will recognize these for what they are. Attempts to regain access to an energy source that no longer feeds dysfunction. Your role in this phase is not to punish or correct. It is to remain unavailable to regression, to remain consistent, to remain precise. Every time you choose alignment over reaction, you reinforce the authority of your presence. Every time you decline to explain yourself, you strengthen your position. And every time you allow others to sit with their discomfort without rescuing them, you accelerate the recalibration that must occur. This is where many misunderstand power. They believe dominance requires constant assertion. They believe control requires visibility. They believe influence requires persuasion. But the kind of influence you are embodying now is quieter and more permanent. It reshapes behavior rather than demanding it. It alters environments rather than confronting them. And it endures because it is not dependent on performance. You will notice that the frenzy subsides not all at once, but in layers. First comes confusion, then frustration, then distance, and finally, acceptance, not admiration. Acceptance. They accept that you are not bending, that you are not shrinking, that you are not engaging on familiar terms. And once acceptance settles in, the danger dissolves. Because danger only exists where resistance meets instability, you offer neither. This does not mean challenges disappear. It means they change form. Instead of overt opposition, there is quiet recalibration. Instead of confrontation, there is repositioning. And instead of attempts to diminish you, there is an effort to coexist without interference. This is the natural conclusion of sustained presence. You outlast what tries to rush you. You outgrow what tries to trap you. The most important realization in this final stage is that nothing was wasted. Every uncomfortable interaction refined your discernment. Every moment of self-doubt sharpened your awareness. Every attempt to undermine you revealed where boundaries were required. You were not delayed, you were trained, and now the environment must adjust to the version of you that no longer negotiates alignment. You do not need to announce that you have changed. Others will tell the story for you in their behavior, in their hesitation, in their distance, in their sudden respect, and even in their silence when they realize there is nothing left to challenge. Your energy has stabilized at a level that does not fluctuate based on approval or resistance. And that stability is what transforms intimidation into authority. This is the conclusion many never reach. They remain stuck, oscillating between reaction and suppression, between performance and withdrawal. You have crossed into something different, a state where your presence is enough, where your path does not require witnesses to remain valid, where your movement is deliberate rather than defensive. From this point forward, you are not responding to pressure. You are setting pace. You are not navigating hostility. You are outlasting it. And you are not proving worth. You are embodying it. This is why the frenzy fades, not because others change, but because your energy no longer gives them anything to push against. The final truth is simple and unmovable. Your aura was never dangerous because it harmed. It was dangerous because it revealed. And now that you understand how to carry it without apology or explanation, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes structure. It becomes gravity. It becomes the quiet force that shapes outcomes without needing to announce itself. And those who once panicked at your presence will eventually understand what they were responding to all along. Not threat, not competition, but clarity. They called you an angel because it made them comfortable, because it allowed them to explain you without actually understanding you. Because when people don't know where to place something powerful, they soften the label until it feels safe to touch. Angel meant predictable. Angel meant harmless. Angel meant you would keep absorbing, keep forgiving, keep turning pain into patience without ever asking for anything in return. They wrapped that word around you like a compliment, never realizing it was also a cage. They praised your kindness while quietly counting on it. They admired your warmth while leaning into it for cover. They spoke about your goodness the way people speak about resources, something generous, renewable, endlessly available. And for a long time, you let them believe it, not because you were unaware, but because you understood something they didn't. Power doesn't need to announce itself. Power waits. Power watches. Power learns who is safe and who is reckless enough to mistake mercy for permission. What they never considered is that angels, in every story that matters, are not decorations. They are not fragile. They are not gentle by default. They are watchers, enforcers, carriers of judgment when balance is broken. The calm you carried was never emptiness. It was containment. And containment looks peaceful to people who have never felt what's being held back. They mistook your restraint for lack. They mistook your empathy for compliance. They mistook your patience for weakness. And that miscalculation is the reason their world started to feel unstable the moment you stopped playing the role they assigned you. Not because you became cruel, because you became exact. You were never naive. You were observant. You noticed how people relaxed too much around you, how they said things they wouldn't say to others, how they crossed lines with small justifications, testing reactions, measuring tolerance. You noticed how often apologies came after the damage, not before the decision. You noticed patterns long before you acknowledged them, because acknowledging them would have required a choice. And at that stage, you were still choosing to believe that people could rise if given enough understanding. That belief wasn't foolish. It was generous. And generosity is dangerous when offered without limits to people who see kindness as an opening rather than a gift. They didn't attack you outright. They never do. They eroded, they chipped, they leaned. They borrowed your strength while telling themselves they deserved it. They relied on your stability to avoid building their own. They leaned on your clarity so they wouldn't have to face their confusion. And every time you absorbed the impact quietly, every time you smoothed over conflict, every time you chose peace instead of confrontation, they added another unspoken note to their internal file about you. Always there, always understanding, always available. And with each note, they stepped a little closer to the edge. Here's the part they'll never admit to themselves. Your presence protected them. Your insight corrected trajectories they didn't even know were drifting. Your care softened consequences that would have crushed them otherwise. You were absorbing shock they never had to feel. And because they didn't feel it, they assumed it didn't exist. They assumed life was manageable on its own. They assumed they were stronger than they actually were. And that assumption made them careless with the one person quietly holding the structure together. You didn't snap. That fantasy belongs to people who want to feel important in your story. You didn't raise your voice or create scenes that could be used later as justification. You didn't turn into the villain they rehearsed for in private conversations. What happened instead was slower and far more unsettling. Something inside you recalibrated, a line moved, a threshold closed. You stopped explaining yourself to people who never listened unless it benefited them. You stopped offering access where respect was absent. You stopped translating your needs into smaller language so others wouldn't feel threatened by them. And when that shift happened, it wasn't loud, but it was absolute. They felt it immediately, even if they couldn't name it. Conversations changed temperature. Your responses shortened. Your availability narrowed. The emotional safety net they took for granted was suddenly gone, and they didn't know why. They replayed interactions looking for the moment they crossed too far, but there wasn't one dramatic scene to point to. That's what unsettles them most. There was no single mistake to apologize for. There was no clean fix. There was only accumulation, evidence stacked quietly over time, until your nervous system, your mind, your self-respect all agreed on the same conclusion. This connection is no longer sustainable. They started telling each other you changed, that you became distant, that you became cold. Labels are easier than accountability. It's simpler to accuse you of transformation than to examine their behavior under consistent light. They don't want to talk about boundaries. They don't want to talk about respect. They don't want to talk about how many times you were expected to be flexible while they remained rigid. Calling you cold allows them to avoid the more accurate description. You became clear, and clarity feels hostile to people who benefit from confusion. What scares them isn't that you pulled away. It's how calm you were when you did it. There was no desperation to be understood, no urgency to repair, no need to win. That calm signals something final. It tells them you didn't act from emotion. You acted from decision. And decisions, once made at that level, don't reverse because someone feels uncomfortable with the outcome. They can argue with feelings. They can negotiate reactions. They can wait out moods. They cannot bargain with someone who has already finished the internal math. They are slowly realizing that your goodness was never a blank check. It was an offering that required mutual care. And when that care was absent, The offering expired. They are realizing that the warmth they miss wasn't automatic. It was a response. It was something you chose to generate in environments where it was respected. And now that it's gone, they feel exposed. Not because you harmed them, but because they are finally standing in the reality you buffered them from. This is where the misunderstanding deepens. They think your shadow appeared recently. They think something dark entered you. They think pain turned you into something else. They are wrong. The shadow they sense now was always there. It's the part of you that sees clearly, the part that doesn't flinch from truth, the part that understands consequence. You kept it restrained because you believed connection mattered more than control. But restraint is not erasure, and once restraint is no longer justified, what was contained becomes visible. Not explosive, visible. Your shadow doesn't destroy. It exposes. It highlights inconsistencies. It removes access. It withdraws support without announcement. And that terrifies people who relied on you without ever securing their place in your life through consistency and respect. They're discovering that losing you isn't dramatic. It's disorienting. Life feels heavier. Decisions feel riskier. Problems feel sharper. And they don't know how to articulate why, because admitting the truth would mean admitting how much of themselves was propped up by someone they treated as expendable. You are not watching them struggle with satisfaction. That's not your nature. But you are also no longer intervening. You are no longer stepping in to soften landings that aren't yours to manage. And that absence is doing what confrontation never could. It's allowing reality to respond without your interference. It's allowing people to meet the results of their own patterns. And deep down, they know it's fair. That's the part that keeps them awake, not guilt, recognition. They remember moments now with a different lens, things they brushed past, words they dismissed, boundaries they ignored because you didn't enforce them loudly. They are connecting dots too late. And while they replay, you are building. You are redirecting energy that was once spent maintaining imbalance into something aligned. Your focus has shifted from managing others to protecting what you're creating. And that shift is irreversible. They used to think your presence meant safety. Now they realize it also meant accountability. You reflected back what was possible. You represented a standard they never committed to meeting. And instead of rising, they tried to lower you. Instead of learning, they tried to lean. Instead of protecting the connection, they exploited its generosity. And when exploitation meets awareness, access ends, not as punishment, as correction. They will try to reframe the story. They will search for angles where they are misunderstood or unlucky or wronged. That's how they survive discomfort. But the narrative doesn't need your participation anymore. You're not invested in being seen correctly by people who benefited from seeing you incorrectly. You are invested in coherence, in alignment, in building a life that doesn't require you to shrink parts of yourself to maintain proximity. This is where the truth they avoid begins to surface. You were never just kind. You were disciplined. You were never just patient. You were perceptive. You were never just forgiving. You were choosing peace until peace required self-erasure. And when that line was crossed, something ancient and precise stepped forward. Not anger, authority, the kind that doesn't need validation. They sense it now. The thing they labeled angel was only half the equation. The other half was always there, watching, learning, waiting for the moment when remaining gentle would mean becoming complicit in your own diminishment. That moment passed quietly. and with it, the version of you they relied on without earning. What followed wasn't withdrawal out of spite. It was repositioning, the kind that happens when someone finally understands their own weight and refuses to carry anyone who keeps pretending it's light. You didn't announce it. You didn't explain it. You didn't demand recognition for the shift. You simply stopped offering access where respect was missing, and that absence began doing work words never could. At first, they assumed it was temporary, a phase, a mood. People who benefit from consistency without reciprocity always believe distance is negotiable. They waited for you to soften, to reach out, to reoccupy the space you once filled so effortlessly. They told themselves you were tired, distracted, busy, anything but done, because accepting that you were finished would require accepting that you reached that point because of them. And that's a weight most people refuse to carry. So they waited. And while they waited, life began to press harder. The problems you used to absorb started landing directly on them. The confusion you once clarified, they stayed unresolved. The emotional support they borrowed freely was no longer available on demand. And slowly, discomfort replaced confidence. They started noticing the difference in how rooms felt without you, not in a dramatic way, in a subtle one. Conversations lost depth. Decisions felt less grounded. Tension lingered longer. They felt exposed without knowing why, because you were never just present. You were regulating energy. You were stabilizing dynamics. You were holding standards quietly by embodying them. And when that embodiment left, what remained had no reference point. People who never built internal structure felt it first. They struggled the most. They reached outward for something to lean on and realized the place you used to stand was empty. This is where the rewriting begins. They look back and start editing memory. They minimize what you gave. They exaggerate what they think you took. They search for moments where they can paint themselves as patient, generous, misunderstood. This isn't malice, it's self-preservation. Their identity depends on not being the kind of person who drains someone like you. So they tell stories that soften edges, that blur responsibility, that make your decision seem sudden rather than cumulative. But those stories don't sit well with them. They don't fully believe their own versions. And that internal friction shows up in restlessness, irritability, distraction. Something is unresolved, and they can feel it. They also start comparing, quietly. They watch how others respond to you now, how your energy is focused, how your presence is deliberate, how you invest differently. And they realize something unsettling. You didn't stop being generous. You became precise. You didn't stop caring. You redirected care toward environments that could hold it without collapsing. That realization stings because it confirms what they tried to deny. The distance wasn't random, it was selective. And that selectivity feels like judgment, even when no words are spoken. What they don't understand yet is that your decision wasn't about them at all. It was about coherence, about living without contradiction, about aligning your actions with the truth your body learned through repetition. You reached a point where continuing to show up required you to override your own signals. And once someone learns to trust those signals, ignoring them becomes impossible. The cost is too high, the dissonance too loud. So you adjusted. An adjustment always looks like rejection to people who expected permanence without responsibility. They replay interactions now, searching for the exact moment everything shifted. They think it must have been something specific they said or did. They want a single scene they can isolate, but there isn't one. That's the part that unsettles them most. The shift wasn't triggered by a moment. It was triggered by consistency, by patterns repeating after being addressed, by apologies followed by the same behavior, by promises made to ease tension rather than to initiate change. You didn't leave because of one betrayal. You left because you understood the structure you were standing in was never going to change, no matter how much effort you poured into reinforcing it. While they analyze the past, you are adjusting to a new internal quiet. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of strain. Your nervous system is recalibrating to an environment that doesn't require constant vigilance. Your mind has more space. Your decisions come easier. You notice how much energy was previously spent anticipating reactions, managing expectations, smoothing edges that weren't yours to smooth. That energy is returning to you now, and with it comes clarity about what you will never normalize again. They sense this clarity when they encounter you, even indirectly. There's a steadiness that wasn't there before. Not softer, stronger, more contained. You're not performing warmth to make others comfortable. You're not adjusting tone to avoid discomfort. You're present as you are, and that presence creates a contrast they can't ignore. They feel measured without being measured, assessed without being assessed. Because when someone knows their own boundaries, everything else reveals itself automatically. Some of them feel anger toward you. That's inevitable. Distance threatens entitlement. They feel wronged because they lost access without consent. They feel abandoned because they never acknowledged how much they were taking. They frame your choice as disloyalty, coldness, arrogance. Those labels help them avoid the deeper truth. That you stayed longer than you should have. That you gave more than was sustainable. That you left only after understanding that staying would mean betraying yourself. Anger is easier than humility, so they choose anger. Others feel something closer to regret, not the kind that leads to change, but the kind that lingers. They recognize that you were rare, that your presence made life easier in ways they never fully appreciated. They realize that the ease they enjoyed wasn't accidental. It was cultivated by someone who cared deeply and worked quietly. Losing that feels like losing a safety net they assumed would always be there. And the realization that it's gone permanently sits heavy. They will attempt contact, carefully at first. Casual messages, indirect references, shared memories. Anything that tests whether the old door still opens. They won't address the real issues, not yet. They'll lead with familiarity, hoping emotional history will override your clarity. But familiarity without respect no longer moves you. You see it for what it is. A reach for comfort, not accountability. And you respond accordingly, polite, neutral, limited. Enough to confirm the shift without explaining it. This is when the narrative changes again. They tell themselves you've become distant because you think you're better than them. Because success changed you. Because someone else influenced you. External explanations are comforting. They allow them to believe the distance isn't about their behavior. But none of those explanations stick. Because deep down, they know the truth. They know how many chances they were given. They know how often you communicated with care. They know how many times they dismissed concerns because it was easier than adjusting. And that knowledge sits beneath every excuse, quietly undermining it. You don't engage in correcting their story. That's another thing they struggle to understand. You don't defend yourself. You don't clarify. You You don't seek to be seen accurately by people who refuse to see you when it mattered. That choice unsettles them more than confrontation ever could, because it signals something final. It signals that their opinion no longer holds weight in your internal economy, and losing relevance feels worse than losing connection. What's happening beneath all of this is simple. Your shadow is doing its job, not by attacking, but by filtering, by distinguishing between what is aligned and what is not, by allowing consequences to exist without interference, by refusing to dilute truth to preserve comfort. That shadow isn't dark in the way they imagine. It's discerning, it's protective, it's loyal to your well-being in a way your previous self struggled to be. And once that loyalty is established, it doesn't waver. They are learning that access to you was never guaranteed. It was sustained by mutual care. And when that care disappeared on their end, the structure collapsed. They can feel the loss, but they can't undo it, because undoing it would require becoming someone capable of holding you without exploiting you. And that kind of change doesn't happen in response to loss. It happens in response to truth. A truth they avoided for too long. As time passes, the distance becomes normalized. They stop reaching out as often, not because they've healed, but because the absence has settled into reality. You become a reference point rather than a presence, someone they think about occasionally, usually when something goes wrong, someone they mention in passing, often with a tone that blends admiration and resentment. You occupy a strange space in their mind, proof of what they had access to once, evidence of what they lost by refusing to grow. Meanwhile, your life continues to organize itself around alignment. New connections form differently, slower, more intentional. You don't rush intimacy, you observe consistency. You notice how people respond to boundaries. You pay attention to whether respect shows up without being requested. And because you're no longer overextending, you have the capacity to notice these things clearly. You're not distracted by the urge to fix or save or carry. You're present. They notice your steadiness from afar, the way you move without explaining, the way you build without broadcasting, the way you no longer seek approval. And that steadiness feels threatening to people who rely on chaos to avoid accountability. They don't know how to approach you anymore. The old scripts don't work. The old leverage is gone. You're not angry enough to manipulate and not needy enough to exploit. You exist outside their strategies now. There is a moment, usually alone, when they fully understand what happened. Not emotionally, intellectually. They realize that your kindness was paired with awareness the entire time. That you weren't unaware of what they were doing. You were simply giving them space to choose better. And when they didn't, you chose yourself. That realization doesn't come with relief. It comes with something heavier. Acceptance. They accept that you are no longer available in the way you once were. That the version of you who absorbed without limit is gone. That what remains is someone who values precision over generosity, truth over harmony, alignment over proximity. And that acceptance marks the end of their confusion. There's nothing left to analyze, nothing left to fix. Just a quiet understanding that a door closed because it needed to. You don't feel victorious. You feel grounded. You don't feel vengeful. You feel intact. The power you stepped into doesn't require witnesses. It doesn't require acknowledgement. It simply reorganizes your life around what is sustainable. And sustainability, once tasted, becomes non-negotiable. They called you an angel because they only saw the part of you that made their lives easier. They never learned what existed beneath that. And now, as the distance holds and the implications deepen, they are beginning to understand that what they lost wasn't softness. It was protection. It wasn't warmth. It was structure. It wasn't generosity. It was discernment disguised as mercy. And as that understanding settles, something else begins to form, something that will become impossible for them to ignore as time moves forward, and the contrast between who you've become and what they remain grows sharper, heavier, more undeniable, leading directly into the final realization they've been avoiding all along. That realization is simple, but devastating. You were never meant to stay. You were never meant to carry them indefinitely. You were the measure they failed to rise to, and now that measure stands outside their reach, unchanged, unmoved, no longer available for comparison or comfort. This is the part where their defenses stop working, where distraction loses effectiveness, where excuses thin out and repetition exposes itself. They begin to feel the full weight of your absence not as loss, but as exposure. Without you present to stabilize as dynamics, they must face themselves without buffer. And many of them don't like what surfaces. They notice how reactive they are, how inconsistent, how quickly they collapse under pressures you once absorbed without acknowledgement. They notice how often conflict escalates without your calming influence, how unresolved issues linger longer, how small problems grow teeth. And somewhere in that recognition, an uncomfortable truth emerges. You weren't just helping, you were holding things together. They remember how easy it felt when you were around, not because life was perfect, but because it was manageable, because there was someone who listened fully, someone who anticipated needs before they were spoken, someone who responded with care instead of calculation. They thought that ease was normal, that it existed naturally. They didn't realize it was being generated deliberately by someone who understood the cost of neglect and chose to intervene anyway. And now that intervention is gone, and ease doesn't return on its own. They try to replicate what you provided. They look for it in others. They seek new connections, new supports, new arrangements. But it doesn't work the same, because what you offered wasn't a role anyone could step into. It was a function of who you were, of your awareness, of your restraint, of your willingness to remain grounded while others spun. And that combination isn't common. It can't be replaced quickly, or cheaply, or at all. This is where resentment hardens, not loud resentment, quiet resentment. The kind that turns admiration into bitterness. They don't hate you. They resent what you represent. They resent that you existed at all, because your existence highlighted their shortcomings. They resent that you walked away without collapsing, that you didn't need them the way they needed you, that your life continued to expand while theirs felt increasingly confined. And that resentment feeds a story where you are framed as distant, ungrateful, changed, anything but accurate. But accuracy isn't required anymore. Your life no longer revolves around correcting perception. You understand something now that took time to learn. Being misunderstood by people who benefited from misunderstanding you is not a failure. It's a release. It frees you from the obligation to perform. It frees you from the burden of explanation. It frees you to live in alignment rather than defense. And that freedom is something they can sense even if they can't articulate it. They watch from afar as you move differently, as you choose carefully, as you invest selectively, as you build with intention. There's no urgency in you now, no scramble to prove value, no rush to secure belonging. You know where you stand with yourself. And that internal certainty changes everything. It affects posture, tone, timing. It affects what you tolerate and what you don't. It affects how quickly you disengage when something feels off. You no longer wait for confirmation that harm is coming. You trust recognition. They begin to realize that your shadow was never something to fear. It was something to respect. It was the part of you that noticed patterns early, that saw through inconsistencies, that understood when kindness was being used as leverage rather than appreciated as care. You kept that part restrained because you believed connection deserved patience. But patience without mutual effort becomes self-neglect. And once you recognized that line had been crossed too many times, restraint no longer made sense. What they lost wasn't your kindness. It was your availability. And availability is a privilege, not a guarantee. It's extended when there is reciprocity. It's withdrawn when there is entitlement. You didn't punish them by leaving. You corrected an imbalance. And correction always feels unfair to the side that benefited from imbalance. They think about reaching out again. Some of them rehearse messages they never send. Others send them and receive polite distance in return. That distance communicates more than confrontation ever could. It tells them they no longer occupy the position they once did, that whatever they had with you has expired, not because time passed, but because respect didn't deepen. And expiration without drama feels colder than rejection. It leaves no room for negotiation. They ask themselves what they could have done differently. The answers surface quickly, but they push them away. Because those answers require accountability. They require admitting that your needs were clear, that your boundaries were reasonable, that your patience was generous, and that ignoring those things was a choice. Choices have consequences, and consequences don't negotiate. Meanwhile, you are not standing still. You are integrating everything you learned. You are refining your standards. You are becoming more precise with your energy. You understand now that love without structure leads to erosion, that care without boundaries invites misuse, that empathy without discernment becomes self-sacrifice, and you refuse to repeat that cycle. Not because you are hardened, because you are awake. You still care deeply, but care no longer overrides self-respect. You still give. But you give where giving is received with responsibility. You still connect, but you connect where consistency exists. And that recalibration changes the quality of everything you touch. Your relationships feel cleaner. Your work feels clearer. Your inner world feels steadier. There is less noise, less internal debate, less second-guessing. You move with intention now. They sense that intention when they think of you. They sense that you are no longer accessible in the ways they understood, that they can't rely on history to reopen doors, that nostalgia doesn't carry weight where alignment is absent, and that realization marks the true end of the connection. Not anger, not conflict, acceptance. They accept that you were never meant to stay small enough to accommodate their comfort, that your growth was always going to outpace their willingness to adapt, that the distance was not a betrayal, but an outcome, and that outcome was shaped by choices made repeatedly, often casually, often without reflection. And now those choices have landed. This is the moment where the lesson locks in, where the narrative stabilizes, where they understand that pushing someone like you doesn't result in explosion. It results in removal. And removal is permanent because it is rational. You didn't leave to teach them a lesson. You left because staying was no longer honest. And honesty, once prioritized, doesn't retreat. They may tell stories about you for years. Some will speak of you with admiration, others with resentment. Some will rewrite history to place themselves closer to your light than they ever were. But none of those stories reach you. You are not listening. You are not checking. You are not invested. Your focus has shifted forward, toward what you are building, toward who you are becoming, toward environments that meet you with equal presence. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be aligned with yourself. And that alignment has cost you access to people who only valued parts of you. But it has given you something far more valuable: integrity. The ability to stand fully in who you are without fragmentation, without apology, without dilution. They finally understand that calling you an angel was convenient because it erased your complexity. It allowed them to enjoy your care without respecting your power. But power was always there, not loud, not aggressive, quiet, controlled, observant. And when control is paired with clarity, it becomes unshakable. You don't need them to acknowledge this. You don't need closure. You don't need validation. The work is complete. The shift has settled. You stand where you stand because it is correct, because it reflects what you know, because it honors what you endured, and because it protects what you are becoming. They thought heaven was harmless. They didn't realize it also contains judgment, not the kind that condemns, but the kind that discerns, the kind that separates what is aligned from what is not, the kind that closes doors quietly and permanently. And now they live with the result of misjudging that. You were never their reward. You were their opportunity. And opportunities don't wait forever. They pass. They move on. They become inaccessible once ignored for too long. And that is what you are now. Inaccessible to those who only saw what you gave and never considered what it cost you. This is not revenge. This is resolution. This is the natural conclusion of awareness meeting repetition. This is what happens when someone refuses to shrink again. When someone chooses coherence over connection. When someone understands that walking away can be the most self-respecting act available. You are not their angel anymore. You are your own authority. And that authority doesn't need permission. It doesn't seek approval. It doesn't linger where it is not valued. It moves forward. It builds. It selects. And it leaves behind those who mistook patience for permanence. They will carry the lesson quietly. They will remember you at moments that matter. And in those moments, they will understand exactly what they lost. Not with bitterness, with clarity. And that clarity will stay with them long after you have disappeared from their daily lives. You remain intact, focused, grounded, fully aware of your capacity and your limits. You carry both light and shadow with discipline. You know when to extend care and when to withdraw. You know when to stay and when to leave. And that knowledge is what makes you untouchable. They called you an angel. They never saw the full picture. Now they never will.